In this video, we are going to learn about different kinds of atoms and how they are constructed from fundamental particles. Atoms are the small bits that make up all the matter in the world around us. From the air we breathe and the food we eat to houses we live in and the screen in front of you now. Although the objects around us can change, they melt, burn, break, etc. These tiny atoms do not change. They are like tiny Lego blocks. When you change a model, and Lego house might transform into a Lego car, but the actual block or atoms stay exactly the same. There are around 100 different sorts of atom, from the lightest hydrogen for their many times bigger uranium. Materials that are made of only atoms of one sort are called elements, and materials that are made of different parts of atom bonded together are called compounds. Each element has a different symbol such as Na, O and Ar. What element is represented by the symbol H? H represents hydrogen. Most of the elements have symbols that start with the same letter as their name. The exceptions are often symbolized by a name derived from another language, like Pb for lead. This is because in Latin, lead is known as plumbum. You look on the periodic table, you will see that the second letter of the symbol is always lowercase. The periodic table was constructed by Dmitry Mendeleev, a Russian chemist and inventor. In 1869, he lined up all the elements in order of increasing atomic mass and then broke them into rows so that elements with similar properties were arranged in column. By doing this, Mendeleev was able to identify gaps and predict the properties of elements that haven't been discovered yet. Theoretically, the periodic table could go on forever as atoms get more and more massive, but very heavy atom and not stable and fall apart easily. Bismuth is considered the last stable atom. This is because atoms are made up of smaller particles. What are the name of these particles? Pause the video for a moment while you think. Atoms are made up of protons, neutrons and electrons. Protons and neutrons sit in a smaller central nucleus while electrons orbit around the outside. The mass of an electron is about 1000 F of the mass of a neutron or proton, which means almost all the masses of an atom is concentrated in the center at the nucleus. Because the mass of the proton and neutron are so much bigger than the mass of the electron, we say that the mass of electron is essentially zero. We define elements based on how many protons they have. The number of protons cannot change. The number of protons must also be the same as the number of electrons in a neutral atom of the elements. This is because protons and electrons are charged. Protons have a positive charge +1 and electrons have a negative charge -1. Because electrons are freely moving around the nucleus of an atom, they can gained, lost or shared with other atoms, providing the chemistry of the atom. Charged atoms are called ions. Neutrons are not charged. It really doesn't matter how many of these there are in the nucleus of an atom. It doesn't affect its chemistry, but they do help to bind the nucleus together, which will otherwise contain only the positively charged proton that repel each other. Some atoms have more or fewer neutrons in the nucleus than other atoms of the same element. These are known as isotopes. They have different masses but undergo the same reactions and have the same physical properties as each other. In fact, their masses is the only way which they are different. If there are too many neutrons in a nucleus, it might be so massive that it becomes unstable and liable to split into smaller atoms. This is known as radioactivity. By now, you should be comfortable with the idea that atoms are made up of protons, neutrons and electrons. You should remember that electrons weigh essentially nothing and that protons and electrons are charged but their neutrons are not.